Thank you for being here tonight. This team has been up to a lot of very exciting things this year, and we are so glad that you joined us tonight to get a sneak peek of what some of those things are. My name is Justin Rudnick. I'm the Assistant Director of Forensics this year, and before we start, I just wanted to give out a couple thank yous. So, first off, we need to thank the College of Arts and Humanities, especially because they sponsored the goodies out there. Did you get anything? Did you get a treat? Good. Good. If you didn't, make sure that you get them because there were a lot of bars out there. We need to thank the Department of Communication Studies and all of the folks in administration all around campus who have helped us coach and travel and compete this year, because really, we couldn't do what we do without the support that we received from the campus community. So thank you if you're one of those people. I've got a question for you folks out in the audience. How many of you are brand new to our activity, have no idea what speech and debate is? Some of you? Okay, I can't see your hands, the lights are so bright. Will you give me a scream if that's you? Like, woo! Woo! All right, good, that's very exciting. Let me give you a quick synopsis of what you're about to see tonight, just so that it makes a little bit more sense for you and you're not sitting there thinking, what are they doing with those books and the walking and the movements and stuff? In speech and debate at the college level, students compete in a wide variety of events, and they do multiple things. So even if you did speech and debate in high school or are somewhat familiar with it, you might have done one or two. Folks on the team this year did up to 7 events this year, so they do a lot. Here's what that looks like. We have all of our events broken down into 3 different categories. There's limited preparation, so students get a short amount of time. It's either 2 minutes or 30 minutes, depending on the event. And they have that short amount of time to craft an original speech that's based on some kind of prompt. It might be a question, it might be a quotation, it might even be an object that they pull out of their bag. And they make it up on the spot. If you've taken public speaking classes, this is very similar to impromptu speaking or extemporaneous speaking, and we call them the same thing here. Then there are public address events, and these are original 10-minute long speeches that the students prepare around some topic that they care about, and each of those speeches has a different goal. So there's informative speaking, where students try to teach the audience something really interesting. There's persuasive speaking, where they try to convince the audience to take some action against some kind of social problem. There's after dinner speaking, where our goal is really to make the audience laugh. And then there's rhetorical criticism, where students analyze some kind of communication message to figure out how it was crafted and how it was shared with a particular audience in mind. And then we say, did it work or did it not? So those are a lot of fun. And then finally, there's oral interpretation, or interpretation of literature. And these are where students compile and splice together different creative literary works to all focus around a particular theme that they want to explore. And some theme of importance. So usually this involves poetry, or storytelling, or drama, or some of what you'll see tonight is duo, where 2 performers come together and act out a particular topic in teams. This event also involves a black book, which you'll see tonight, and that can be a little unusual if you've not seen it before. And it contains the script for those performances, and it's meant to illustrate to you, the audience, that the performer is bringing words to life that belong to somebody else. So they've crafted all of these things, they've brought them together for you, and are going to give them meaning. Tonight, you're going to get a glimpse of a few of these different events, each one very different, but they've all been honed for months. And some of the things that you'll see tonight, we started working on back in August, and it's very exciting to see how far they've come in that long amount of time. The team has been very busy this year, and so before we get started, I wanted to share some highlights of everything that we've accomplished before we go to nationals in 2 days. So, this year, the team attended 22 regular season tournaments from September to March. And we should clap for that. That was a lot of fun. The team, and I believe we had about 11 people who were traveling pretty consistently, prepared a total of 46 events to travel to those tournaments. 46. That's why we're tired. When we tallied up all of the performances that they gave over those 22 tournaments, it turns out that our team has given 696 speeches so far this year, with more to come. Now, of course, we do speaking because we love it, and we love to advocate for the topics that we talk about. But those of you with a competitive edge know that sometimes it's nice to come home with some hardware. And that's why we are very proud this year to say that we have so far won a total of 137 individual speaking awards this year. As a team, we also placed in the top 3 of teams at 9 different tournaments throughout the year. That's exciting. That's not easy to do. And also, every year in February at the Minnesota State Speech Tournament, the top 2 speakers in persuasive speaking qualify for the very prestigious Interstate Oratory Contest. It's the oldest public speaking event in the country. It's been around since the 1800s, and every state can only send 2 qualifiers. And this year, one of them is from Minnesota State Mankato, and she is our first qualifier since 2013. Stay tuned because you will see her tonight. Finally, and this is what we're so excited for, we fly out to Santa Ana, California on Wednesday to attend the National Forensic Association Championship Tournament. There will be over 80 colleges and universities from around the country competing at this place. And this year we qualified a total of 41 events for that tournament, and that is not easy to do, so congratulations. We are so proud of this team, and we hope that you are too, and we're very pleased that you're here to see all of the hard work that they've put into this. They've represented the university very well this year. But enough from me. I am going to turn it over to our fantastic MC for the evening. Please welcome the fabulous junior, Kayleen Cruz.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kayleen, as Justin said, and I will be facilitating tonight. Just make sure y'all don't get a little too wild, not a hand. I am beyond excited to be able to share some topics with you that truly mean the world to us, and hopefully will open some of your eyes to some different things that we have been talking about. Like Justin said, these ladies are all headed to California in 2 days to compete at the National Forensics Association Tournament. Now, to attend this tournament, you have to qualify 4 different events to, like I said, qualify to go to this tournament. So in order to qualify an event, you have to final at a tournament for your category. So you have to be in the top 6 people for the entire tournament at that tournament to qualify. And you do that with all 4 events that you want to bring to California. So we invite you here today to share all the hard work we have put in since August and to have our voices heard and raise awareness for topics that are important to us and, like I said, important to you, hopefully. Now, before we get too carried away, I do have some ground rules we need to set. First, everybody take out your phones and turn them, you don't have to turn them all the way off, the world isn't gonna end, but you need to do that. You can either swipe down, I'll show you, swipe down, there's this moon here, you can still get your notifications, it just won't make noise, or swipe up if you have the older version, do that seriously now. It takes 10 minutes for one of these people to do their speeches, and this is 10 minutes that they have put in unbelievable amounts of work and effort, and they deserve your attention. Number 2, no talking. That is very, very strict. Both of these rules are super strict, even when we're competing at separate tournaments. So don't talk. There's a lot of impact in the words that you will hear, so there's no need to interrupt that. Like I said, it's only 10 minutes. So one of my favorite things about speech is actually the ability for the audience to almost interact with the speaker. So there are these little verbals that you can almost give snaps or mms. You'll hear some of us doing it. So if one of these ladies says something that you completely agree with or something that really sticks out to you, you can go or snap your fingers. So we'll try it really quick. So say I'm standing up here and I'm giving a speech and I say pineapple on pizza, and you go. Say I'm standing up here and I say pineapple does not belong on pizza. Right, correct. That is no. Pineapple, pizza, yes. Okay, so wait till the very end to give you hoo-ha, hollers, all that sorts of stuff, but those little snaps really do motivate some people when they are speaking, so it's nice to know that you're paying attention. Finally, it is very important to know that if, for whatever reason, you do feel like the message that is about to be presented is going to trigger you in any sort of way, please feel free to leave and take the time that you need. Wait until the event is over and you can always re-enter. If you think that and then you get through the piece or you're sitting through the piece and it's just hitting really hard, hitting home for you and you need a minute, again, please respectfully leave quietly if that's what you need to do. Take the time that you need and rejoin us whenever you're ready. That's something that we always practice in the speech community. Without further ado, we will introduce our first two performers. So this is going to be a duo performance. Now, duo obviously includes two people. So Kaylee is first. She is our longest standing member on the speech team, and this is her 3rd year. She is a mother pheasant plucker, and she has been a huge guide for each one of us on the team. Jacqueline is a 2nd-year student who has somehow managed to balance her crazy life scheduling, being from an LLC for the elementary education program in speech and the rest of her life. She is undoubtedly the most humorous person on our team. Duos are very unique, so performers cannot look at or touch each other. So that is why you'll see a lot of the blocking and a lot of the movements that they choose to do, so just keep that in mind. Both of these ladies are future teachers, and this duo focuses on the dangers of school shootings in today's world. Without further ado, Kaylee and Jacqueline.
We are aware of the rumors that you've been hearing. We would like to address this issue. The police have investigated and have determined that there is no credible threat. The Trump administration just doubled down last week on its support for arming teachers, announcing that it would like to help states provide them with rigorous firearms training. Florida just passed a law allowing teachers to arm themselves.
Meanwhile, a reserve police officer accidentally fired his gun in a Northern California high school Tuesday afternoon. One student was struck in the neck by bullet fragments.
These events are now so familiar, we basically automatically know how each side will play out.
Thoughts and prayers!
Fuck your thoughts and prayers! It's a mental health problem!
Yeah, but it's also a gun problem, and then somebody says...
Now's not the time to talk about gun control.
Everybody moves on until it inevitably happens again.
As the gunman burst in with an AR-15, we huddled together in the classroom trying to protect terrified students.
All while listening to 154 gunshots echo through the hallways and classrooms of our elementary school.
If I had a gun, would I have left my terrified students? Never.
Only a week after the Parkland shooting in February of 2018, the NRA doubled down on their use of the phrase, to stop a bad guy with a gun, it takes a good guy with a gun.
Legislation allowing guns inside of classrooms has been introduced across the country, with 8 states currently allowing guns on school grounds.
The Trump administration seems to think that these good guys with guns are our nation's educators, expecting teachers to be able to engage in armed conflict.
However, according to a study done by the Violence Policy Center in February of 2017, even trained law enforcement officers have only a 20% hit ratio in armed confrontations.
As future educators ourselves, this possibility of guns in the classroom is suddenly all too real.
So, although I should try to do what I can to protect those I love, my desire to protect others says nothing about my ability to do so. So with the drama Clowns with Guns by Christopher Evans,
G is for Gun by Julie Way and Kate Ackeret,
The First Day Teachers Bring Guns to School by YouTuber T. Prindle,
the poetry Hello Everyone by A. Giorgio,
and articles from the LA Times, The Atlantic, and Elle, we argue.
we signed up to become teachers.
Not soldiers.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's the School Shoot-O-Rama. This is where you,
The honest customer, walk into your educational palace and hopefully come out with the greatest prize of all, your life.
I can promise you personally that you will all live long and happy lives, and you do not need to worry about any of your classmates trying to slaughter you en masse. We are taking measures to ensure your safety.
meet the shooter.
Oh, so
out with lunches and homework.
And then you have somebody who has to use the restroom.
And we go through our whole morning routine, and there's people coming in and out, and OT and PT and aides.
And then we move on with more reading in my classroom.
And that's all before lunch.
And by the way, you're a security officer now. Here's your gun safe.
We are outfitting the school to do away with all windows, for we recognize the threat they pose to your safety and well-being. There will now be a tactical element to fire and earthquake drills. Before Parkland, 18 states already allowed adults to carry loaded weapons on school grounds with permission of the principal or school board. And some school districts have even authorized teachers to carry guns.
Have you ever had a crazy teacher? Okay, now picture a crazy teacher with a gun.
Why are you in my classroom
The
late?
teacher before said the bell doesn't dismiss me, she does.
Do you know what is going on in this classroom right now? Do you know what they equip me with? Sit down and secure the door. They don't care about your safety. I'm trying to protect this house. Now, class, open up your books to page 146.
The football team has been supplied with
Kevlar, nightsticks, and mace, and will be tasked with maintaining the serenity and order on this campus.
It's completely unrealistic to think that an educator with a gun could take down an active shooter without harming or killing other teachers. God forbid the children.
But I have been able to find, approach, and fire at the shooter and not hit somebody else. What if a child got in the way? Even trained law enforcement officers rarely take down a shooter, and their only job is to shoot. This is not the movies. It's a school.
Hey, do you know the answers for questions 3 through 6?
Who said you kids could talk? Did somebody say you kids could talk? Do you know what they equip me with? I just got my license yesterday, and I will fuck up your ACL!
Okay, I feel like this teacher gun thing has gotten too out of hand. Like, on behalf of this entire class, I'm pretty sure everyone here is on the same page. Like, you and your little pistol, you're doing too much. You're not the police, you're not security.
I didn't realize how much power I didn't have until he came into the school. I hid. I waited. I saw the terrified looks on my students' faces, and I mouthed the words.
It's gonna be okay.
I think that's when they relaxed. When they realized that what I said mattered. When he found us. Everyone wanted to hide and run, but not me. He wouldn't hurt me.
Education and entertainment. We sure are getting our $2 worth.
Faculty meetings will now include jujitsu and paramilitary tactics. Sergeant Harry Truman of the County Police Department will be your new vice principal, and I promise he will do everything in his power to keep our white students safe. Anytime there is going to be a shooting incident, there will be 14 officers there within 2 minutes' time and 1 officer there within seconds. They are walking into a building with people they don't know whether or not are going to be armed.
The chance that we meet each other in the hallway. You have a split second to do that reactionary time and identify threat, no threat. When the police come in, they are looking for people with guns.
None of you will be shot today or any day ever. There is no problem and you are all perfectly safe. You must behave as though this is normal because it is. This message will be repeated every Monday and Wednesday until you begin to believe it. I'm not excited to have a code red in every class.
They're seriously making you do the entire lockdown drill in every class?
Yeah, every single one.
Do you want me to come get you?
No, it's okay. I'll let you know if I get uncomfortable, I promise.
I just want to say this. I cannot believe that our lawmakers are so corrupt that they put the safety of America's children, our children, they are going to grow up and they are going to vote your NRA puppets the hell out.
Teachers should not be trained in how to take the lives of their students. Teachers are hired to teach, and they do way more than that. Many of these school shootings are happening by actual students in the schools. Training a teacher to be able to take the life of a 12th grader or a 12-year-old is
It's just not something that we should be talking about.
It's absurd to add sharpshooter to my job description.
I'm a teacher because every day I go to my classes. I am excited to learn. I am excited to learn about how to better teach my children. And no, I do not complain, nor would I ever.
I am a teacher because being a teacher is more than just about teaching. For some students, I'm the only person that's happy to see them during their day. The only person that they can hug.
The person who feeds them breakfast when their families couldn't afford to.
I will be a light in their life if they have no other.
I will be there.
I loved my mother and father so much when people would get pets and would name their guinea pig something like Punky Brewster, or a chihuahua and name it something like Sting. I got 2 goldfish and I named them Paul and Lisa after my parents, because in my eyes they were my rock stars. The rest of the world existed outside of my family. In fact, when it came time to write my college essay, I wrote my college essay on the power of my parents. Divorce. Because it had changed all of our relationships and took us on our next adventure together. The day before I was to go to college, my mother and I had lunch. And she had confessed to me that she had seen a doctor. She was sick. And it wasn't going to be a big deal. She was just going to have some treatments and it would be fine. But I couldn't unhear that. It was like suddenly I had to consider the world with a big hole where my mom should be. In her article, Parenting a Parent Towards Life's Ends, author Julia K. Hirsch examined coping mechanisms adults experience while navigating through the impending death of a parent. Hirsch noted how the strange transition often forces a harsh reality for those, as they are forced to be realist in situations they are unprepared for. This evolving role of caregiver is often an ongoing struggle for the children, as they are forced to balance the new responsibilities as caregiver with the grieving process. Kate Teller shares this experience with us as she navigates through the impending death of her mother with grace. But also Bring Cheese by Kate Tellers. And I would go months and months and I wouldn't think about it. And then I'd be reminded of it, and it's like my brain would split. You know, part of me would be completely present. The other part of me would be outside of us, taking notes and searing them to my brain in case I ever needed them when she wasn't around. After college, I moved to New York, and I would go visit her place in Pittsburgh, and I'd get in really late. And she'd open the door and she'd say, "Would you like a glass of wine?" And I would say yes. And we both knew that a glass of wine was never a glass of wine. And we'd go into the kitchen and she had these mismatched blue and white plates with homemade hummus, white cheeses, and salted olives. And these huge globes of red wine that would never, ever be empty. One night we're sitting and talking, and I start to take note. I note the way that she laughs so big that I can see the cavities in the back of her mouth. And then when she brings her head down, she kind of pulls her turtleneck over her chin and rubs the ribs of her lavender sweater. And I can tell that she shops at the children's section of LensCrafter, because when the lights hit the arms of her glasses, it says Harry Potter. When January comes, I'm back in Pittsburgh. The doctor said it's time to come home. Now I'm in my mother's bathroom, change on her face. She tells me to call a nurse, walks out of the bathroom, down the hall, crawls into bed, and goes silent. I know that this is the day that I've been afraid for 10 years. My sister and I made a calendar schedule so that my mother's friends and family can come visit her these days, but she'll never be too overwhelmed with too many guests, so now I'm calling everybody, telling them to come over for what will probably be one of the worst days of their lives, but because I'm my mother's daughter, I'm doing this, and I'm pulling plates off of the shelf, and I'm saying, but also bring cheese. And they do. And people start coming, aunts and uncles, my mother's boyfriend, my sister's boyfriend, and my father, and I've got food out, and I'm refilling people's wine glasses, and I hear my mom say, she's laid out in bed, "Can I get you anything? A cup of tea?" And I'm like, really? You're dying. You're not doing this right now. So I start handing people empty cups and saucers. Just bring this in there so she knows you're okay out here. When I go in to check on my mother, she's standing at the closet reaching for a sweater. When I ask her what she's doing, she says, "I have to pack." I don't know what to say to this, so finally I just say, "Mommy, where you're going, you won't need a suitcase." She nods, crawls back into bed, and goes silent. People start to come in and say their goodbyes, and finally it's my turn. I sit on her bed. And I know I should say that I love her. And that I'll miss her. And that neither of us should have to experience life without one another. She knows that. So I just say, following November, I'm going to be a bridesmaid in my high school friend's wedding. So she knows I have plans. And then I say, and I'm really excited because the dresses are green and they'll match my eyes. And that's it. On the phone in the hallway, and I hear my sister, who is a classically trained singer, hit all of the notes. I know that my mother is gone. We all gather in the living room, and we eat all of the cheese and drink all of the wine. I bring out this bottle of limoncello that my mom saved for special occasions. I figure that this one counts, and that I'm allowed. Drink all of that. Everyone leaves. I go to bed. The next morning I wake up and it's the day that I'm afraid of. Go into the kitchen, open the coffee machine, and empty the grounds. And I realize that I still know how to make a pot of coffee.
a chai latte, what I meant to say was I knew exactly what love looked like in 7th grade. Even though I hadn't met love yet, had love wandered into my homeroom, I would have recognized him at first glance. And I knew I just must be searching the wrong hallways, looking in the wrong classrooms. Love was there. If only I could find him. As a teenager, I sensed that sexuality was a spectrum, but I didn't have the words for it then. And in my 20s, I sensed that maybe I was a whore for being attracted to so many points on the spectrum. And for years, I operated under 3 beliefs gifted to me by my lovers. 1, I don't get to be gay. 2, there is no such thing as bisexual. And 3, I am the straightest woman ever. Apparently. So I go to my local Walmart and I immediately notice the people staring, like my clothes had just spontaneously combusted, like I'm giving birth in aisle 5, like I am crushing a very small kitten with my bare hands. These were not friendly stares. I tell myself they are staring because I was an actress once, a lion tamer, a magician. I stopped planning my escape for you. Love stayed away for years, and when love finally arrived, I barely recognized her. We often view coming out as a two-sided occurrence, before and after. However, for many LGBTQ+ individuals, it is not a simple binary process. Judith Butler argues in her 1991 work, Imitation and Gender Insubordination, that simply coming out does not free one from oppression, since the act of entering into a non-heterosexual relationship inspires judgment on their character. For those trapped in the liminal stages, there is often not enough safety or a support to fully explore one's identity without judgment from without or even from within the community. So with the poetry Confessions of an Uneducated Queer and Submissive by Lauren Zuniga, How to Flirt with Someone You Think is Attractive and Want to Be Your Boo by Ebony Stewart, to The Girl Who Works at Starbucks down the street from my house on Delman Heights Avenue Road, Swear to God I'm Not a Stalker by Rudy Francisco, The Lesbian Reevaluates by Blythe Baird, Small Towns by The Slam Team, and When Love Arrives by Sarah and Phil Kay. An exploration of my own in-between. But instead of saying all of that, I panicked and I ordered the first thing on the menu. To be honest, I don't know what the fuck chai is, or a latte for that matter, but I've been sitting here for 5 days thinking about how I was gonna finally introduce myself to you, and I think I finally got it. It's gonna go something like, hi. And that's all I've got so far, but I think it's pretty good, and usually I am not a love poet. I'm a strong, liberated woman. And my ex-boyfriends will tell you that you will never find the word submit written on these hands, that these hands are always turned face up, ready to give. I once read in Cosmo that men like a woman who can take control, so I have long since memorized the erogenous zones, the exact placement of tongue for desired response. And I can always make a man's microphone sing some pretty damn good songs. But I had no idea how to please a woman. You see, you've got me blushing in rainbows. You make me want to eat my words and then spit out my spine. I would abandon all of my offer for you. Baby. Can I call you baby? No. Okay. Everything I know about being a good queer I learned from poets. Poets are cheaper than college. We do not all have access to the most helpful words. So when she asked me if I was a dom or sub, I didn't know what what she was talking about. All I knew is that I wanted to be the opposite of her, so that we would fit together. And to be honest, I told my parents that I want them to meet my partners, but that I would never do it here. I would rather my girlfriend and my parents be complete strangers on our wedding day than to ever introduce her to this Iron Maiden town that I am supposed to call home. And usually I'm not a love poet. In fact, every time I try to write about love, my hands cramp. Just to show me how painful love can be. And sometimes when I'm writing, my pencils break. Just to show me that love takes a little bit more time than we were expecting. And so, I guess I'm a sub. I guess I'm a femme, whatever that means. I guess sex doesn't really fit into boxes anymore, and they're all just words and images taken and glued down to our vision board. But it's always our vision boards. Because the way that we were originally simple just does not make sense. I guess we are all light shades and dark shades of masculine and feminine, looking for someone to bounce light off of, looking for someone to give, when we simply needed to receive. And do I have to go back in the closet if I already came out once? I used to find empowerment in labels, and now I just feel suffocated by them. And if I'm not 100% gay, who do I address the apology letter to? I am trying to remind myself that redefining my identity does not make me a liar. And I was not raised to love everything the same. I was raised to hate anything that was different. I didn't realize I was being raised to hate myself. And love will tell you that you are beautiful and mean it. And this is for every straight girl here who still thinks they have to get drunk to kiss other girls. I get it. Oppression is a loud room. Sometimes we can't hear our own heartbeats. And this is for the first time that I heard the word heteronormative, and it felt like someone had handed me a corkscrew after years of opening the bottle with my teeth. And this is for identifying as bisexual and thanking everyone who fought to keep the B in LGBT. And this is for learning to carry the word femme and then dropping the whole tray on the tile. Over and over again, you are beautiful. And this is for trying on new words, sleek spoon words, dusty attic words, fuck up everybody's shit, and look good doing it words. And this is for my best friend in high school who was so convinced that he was going to go to hell that he fashioned. That he fashioned his life into a loaded pistol. I wish I had had smart words then. When you don't want to hear it, you are beautiful. And I didn't even want to write this poem because I didn't want to fuck it up. Writing poetry you don't really know about can be very problematic. But not writing poetry because you don't want to fuck it up can also be problematic. The world is problematic, please. Fuck it up. And this is to all of you for giving me the space to fuck it up in. Thank you. When you don't believe it, you are beautiful, and I've always believed that real life is kind of like a supermodel before she's airbrushed. It's pure and imperfect. And love still thinks that you are beautiful. Do not forget this.
Caleb Boone Robinson attended Linkhorn Middle School during his 6th grade year. One day, Caleb, an African-American student with autism, had left the classroom early without permission, which resulted in the school resource officer pursuing him, pushing Caleb to the ground, and arresting him. New Advance reported in March 2016 following the incident that Caleb was charged with a felony assault. Caleb is one of the countless students who is victimized in education as someone who is neurodiverse. Neurodiversity is a term formerly used to describe the autism community. However, it is now expanded to accept all varying kinds of disabilities, like ADHD or learning and behavioral disorders, as simply diversity in brain function. And despite neurodiversity's profound impact on learning and educational success, it is woefully unaccounted for in education. Our education system is built by the neurotypical for the neurotypical, which puts neurodiverse individuals, nearly a quarter of our population, at a lifelong disadvantage. So today, we will examine the problems within our education system. Then we'll look at the causes of why education is so poorly equipped to include neurodiverse students, before finally exploring some solutions. Because as Temple Grandin, a woman with autism and neurodiversity advocate, asserts, neurological differences must be respected in the same way diversity of gender, ethnicity, or sexual orientation is. Caleb is a victim of the many problems that stem from a lack of neurodiversity in education. First, restricting neurodiverse students, and second, inhibiting necessary change. First, the general education classroom environment is built for neurotypical students, not for students with disabilities who are also in those classrooms. Laura Waters explains in NewYorkSchoolTalk.org in August 2018 that 80% of students with disabilities can achieve at grade level, but yet fewer than 15% do. The standard stationary desks lined up in rows restrict students with ADHD, ADD, or autism who have other sensory needs. Simply listening and taking notes during a lecture is just not practical for someone with an auditory processing disorder. And despite federal legislation protecting individuals with disabilities, Laura Waters continues, neurodiverse students are cheated every day by a dysfunctional system that deprives students with disabilities of their state and federal rights. Second, we inhibit necessary change when we view disability without the lens of neurodiversity. Our negative attitude towards disability has created a deficit paradigm in education, which halts all progress towards inclusion. The American Institute for Learning and Human Development reported in April 2018 that the pioneers of special education in the first half of the 20th century used terms to describe neurodiverse individuals such as moron, feeble-minded, and educationally handicapped. While our rhetoric has become more respectful, the underlying negative attitude persists. We view disability as a deficit, something that is wrong with the student, which others them from their neurotypical counterparts. This deficit paradigm is perpetuated by educators, obstructs inclusion, and puts the students in an impossible situation. If the paradigm we use to teach neurodiverse students implicitly assumes they are going to fail, how can we be surprised when they do and not take responsibility for it? Unfortunately, cases of injustices like Caleb's are not anything new. And the lack of neurodiversity in education first originates in the historical purpose for education, and second, is perpetuated by a lack of awareness of neurodiverse needs. First, 150 years ago during the Industrial Revolution, the purpose of education was to produce workers for standard mass production jobs. Thus, the dawn of standardized education was created, which clearly is not cognizant of the varying types of learners and their needs. Joey Ito, who identifies as neurodiverse, writes in the aforementioned Wired article, the quarter of our population who is diagnosed as somehow non-neurotypical struggles with modern education. And even as our understanding of education and students' needs changed, our industry-driven education didn't. Second, as we struggle to break free from this flawed system, a lack of neurodiversity is perpetuated by unaware or apathetic educators. EdSurge Independent reported in April 2018 that 15% or more of students struggle to learn with an unidentified learning issue. And a report conducted by the National Institute for Learning Disabilities found that 37% of parents believe their child's school does not adequately test for learning disabilities. How can anyone make a classroom more accessible if we don't even know neurodiverse students exist? Many students find themselves in the awkward middle of not legally qualifying for special education services and yet still needing accommodations in their general education classroom. And when we don't even know these students are there, they fall right through the cracks. In order to create an environment in which every student has the opportunity to learn and succeed, we need to celebrate neurodiversity as diversity in brain function rather than disability. This requires action in education, our speech community, and our everyday lives. The first hurdle is that educators must be aware of the neurodiverse students they have in every classroom. Then they can begin to make the necessary accommodations to foster a more inclusive environment. Though I recognize not all of us are going to take the education field by storm, but we are college students. We have the power and responsibility to hold our professors accountable, to ensure accessibility for ourselves and for neurodiverse individuals. To do this, I've created a neurodiversity indicator handout. If you identify as neurodiverse, please take a handout. Indicate on a list in what way you are neurodiverse, and at the bottom, explain any accommodations, preferred learning styles, or anything you feel your professors should be aware of. But our action does not stop there. We need to start respecting neurodiversity in our speech community. While there aren't necessarily rules in our handbook that restrict individuals with autism or dyslexia, it is our norms that restricts neurodiverse individuals, which includes judges, coaches, and competitors. Our arbitrary expectations do not keep in mind the struggles of those with learning disabilities trying to perfectly memorize a 10-minute speech, or someone with dyslexia trying to read an impromptu quotation in 5 seconds, or even those with autism or social anxiety trying to network and feed into the politics of this activity. Respecting neurodiversity can simply mean considering neurodiversity while judging, asking students how they prefer their feedback while coaching, written, verbally, in what setting, and overall, fostering a community of inclusion. Now, I am not advocating for us to lower our ambition for excellence. Rather, success in this activity should be accessible, regardless of disability. And finally, though it's easy to forget, we all have lives outside of speech, and respecting neurodiversity must come with us as we leave this activity. In our workplaces, restaurants, the grocery store, we need to pay more attention and be more respectful. This means asking questions. So when someone seems to be taking too long to read the menu or to order, see if they want more time. Or if someone seems uncomfortable speaking in a situation, see if they would prefer to write it down. Asking is essential, rather than getting frustrated or assuming what someone may need. When we make assumptions, we either under or over accommodate and end up insulting that individual, even if the gesture was well-intentioned. Neurodiverse individuals deserve the same opportunity to be a part of this community and to be respected in our workplaces, our culture, education, and in forensics. Thankfully, the charges against Caleb were eventually dropped. But the fact that an 11-year-old with autism was even charged at all forces us to consider the role neurodiversity plays in our lives. Neurodiverse individuals deserve the same opportunity to succeed in education and to be respected in the same sense of any other facet of diversity. The fact that each and every one of us has varying brain functions means neurodiversity isn't something that divides us. Rather, it unifies us.
I first started taking care of other people's children when I was actually still just a child myself. So that meant that people were paying me basically to play, so that was really awesome. But it also meant that I was getting a ton of childcare experience, and that by the time I was 16, I could change a diaper with my eyes shuttered, change a diaper with one hand tied behind my back. So I kind of thought that all of my childcare experience was going to teach me everything I needed to know about parenting my own children. And my husband and I, we had a daughter, and then a son, and then we decided to become foster parents with the intention of hopefully being able to adopt one day. We had to do all sorts of things, background checks, have physicals done, fingerprinted, have our home inspected. I mean, the whole thing turned out to be way more complicated than just creating a new human being with my body. And then we got a call about a baby at the hospital. And I thought, wow, an infant. Doesn't everybody else want an infant? But we said yes. In their 2016 article, Discursive Entwinement, How White Transracially Adoptive Parents Navigate Race, Doctors Carla Gore, Jenny L. Davis, and Bianca Monago investigate how white transracially adoptive parents navigate issues of identity and race in their non-white children. They explain that while colorblind approaches indicate the continued presence of white hegemonic reasoning, the increasing emergence of color consciousness in transracially adoptive parenting can allow white parents to more effectively engage in issues of race. Author Gina Sampaio explores this concept through her experiences with her own adopted children and provides an example of how white parents can assist in the fostering of their non-white children's individual identities. Adventures in Saying Yes by Gina Sampaio. We got him home, and it became obvious right away that there were still things we needed to learn, like what to do when a woman comes bouncing up to you and says, "Your baby is so cute. Is his daddy black?" So I just pretended that I couldn't really remember. Or what to do when a woman taps you on the shoulder at a crowded restaurant and demands to know, "Where's that baby from?" And when told, "New Jersey," just continues to keep asking, "But where before that?" Until finally you're forced to just say, "A uterus." Our case moved along, and we were given the go-ahead to adopt him 6 years after starting our fostering experience. Lessons were still being learned, and mistakes were being made. I can admit to being that white mom out at the store when a black woman tells me that my baby's hair feels a little bit dry, and I knew that I had to learn from all of these different sources. The black community, the adult adoptees, more experienced transracially adopted families, and all while trying to balance it with what it meant to be our family, in this time and in this place. I thought we were doing all right, and then one day, my son was getting ready for school. He was 6 years old and getting ready for first grade, and he was brushing his teeth, and he just stopped, and he said, "I wish a brown family adopted me." He wasn't upset about it. He was more matter of fact, like, "I want to wear my blue sneakers, and I wish a brown family had adopted me." But I was stunned. I knew he might say something like this at some point, but I wasn't really expecting it. And so I just tried to stay calm, and I said, "Oh, well, how come?" And he said, "I want the family to look like me." And so I just apologized. I didn't know what else I could possibly do. I got him off to school, and the whole day I'm just thinking, what am I going to do about this? And on one hand, I didn't really want to do anything. I mean, the kid seems fine. I don't want to bother him, get him upset about it. But on the other hand, you have to muddle things up sometimes before you can get some clarity. So at bedtime that night, I muddled things up. I said to him, "Are you still feeling sad that a brown family didn't adopt you?" And he didn't say anything. He just nodded yes. And so I said, anything or say something recently that made you start to feel that way? And he just nodded no. So now I'm grasping for straws. Did you know that Daddy and I love you very, 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 very much? And again, just a nod. I mean, clearly the kid was not going to help me move the conversation forward at all. And so I had no idea what to say. And I absolutely surprised myself with what came out next. I said to him, did you know that there's sadness to adoption? And this time his interest was piqued, because this time he spoke and he said, no, I didn't. And I said, well, yeah, most of the time people only talk about how really happy adoption is, and we are so happy you're a part of our family, but if the world were perfect and there were never any problems, you probably could have just stayed with your first mommy, don't you think? And this time, my boy answered me. It wasn't with a nod or with words, but he sobbed. And this wasn't crying over a skinned knee. He was sobbing over an emotional wound he didn't even know he had. And he still lacked the language and the emotional maturity to really explore it. But there was something about my acknowledging it for him that just unlocked the deepest sob I had ever heard from a little child. And I told him that it was okay to feel sad about that, and maybe even forever. But that I wanted to help him find peace over it. And would he maybe like to try and meet some of his birth family? And he said yes. So I reached out to our caseworker and I said, I had heard about this great-grandmother. Can you give me her number or something? And he said no. But I did a little bit of research and a little more asking around and found out that he could, however, send a letter on my behalf. So I wrote the letter and I sent it. And I hoped for the best. And it worked, because we got a call about a week or two later. This great-grandmother who had worried and prayed for years. We went to go meet her immediately. And as soon as we did, all these doors just kept opening up. Every time we went, we would meet a new family member. And each one of them welcomed all of us. Our adopted kids, our biological kids, my husband and myself, with open arms. And all of these relationships that could have felt strained or awkward just never did. And our children thrived because of it. That was 4 years ago. On a more recent visit, I was sitting catching up with the kids' auntie. I could see my husband eating and talking with another family member, and some of my kids were doing crafts with some cousins, and others were running around playing Ninja Turtles with other cousins, and there was Pop, sitting on the couch. He had the Nature Channel turned on way too loud, like he always had it. And there was my son, snuggled up by his side, trading wild animal facts with his grandfather. Looking around the room that day, I thought to myself, I always thought that adoption just meant a new family for the kids that are adopted, but looking around here, I can see that in our case, it means so much more. It's a new family for all of us.
Do you know anything about intercourse?
Sperm, egg, collide, blah, blah, blah. Sex education in the Bible Belt could be better termed fear tactics.
To prevent proper young ladies from allowing their bra straps to be handled by anyone other than their mothers.
Which inadvertently leads their curious fingertips to be handled by improper young boys.
You see, y'all, in the South, we feel very strongly about the fact that entire wall-sized photographs of herpes-ridden vaginas are all that pubescent and
Hormonal teenagers need to know about sexual contact and intimacy.
it's funny. I used to dream about being old enough to ride around with friends in their cars and I had this image of myself holding hands with this really cute guy, watching the leaves change color. It was never about going anywhere though. It was just about having some sort of freedom, I guess. But now that we're old enough,
Where the hell do we go?
In her 2018 article, Abstinence-Only Sex Education Sucks, writer Samantha Hart detailed the current stance of sex education in America.
Hart explains that the use of abstinence-only sexual education is demonizing individuals who engage in sexual intercourse before marriage.
For females especially, these educational practices leave girls feeling dirty instead of comfortable and well-equipped.
Continuing this trend will only make women more uncomfortable when talking about their body science. So with the article, How the Bad Sex Ed You Got in High School is Still Harming You by Amelia Thompson.
Poems Sex Ed by Cora Moore, Box by Ebony Stewart, and Bible Belt by Sadie Flo.
With scenes from the film It Follows by David Mitchell.
Interviews from the Birds and the Bees by the Cut YouTube channel, A Sex Talk.
Because the one you got in 7th grade
Just isn't gonna cut it. What Andrea Krakowski remembers most about her first time is the panic attack that followed. She was 17, lying in bed with her 20-year-old boyfriend, a restaurant cook she'd met through friends. After weeks of discussion, they finally had sex.
It was a brief and, for Andrea, painful experience. Rather than feeling tender and flushed with new emotions, she started to hyperventilate.
She and her boyfriend had used a condom, but she was more afraid of an STD or pregnancy or worse, wasting her virginity.
And in my second year of university, in a sexual education lecture, my professor says,
"This is what is happening inside of you. Look at this magic, this handmade ecosystem." Anonymous box of 6th grade boys group asked their sex educator.
So if I don't have a condom, could I just use a plastic bag?
No. Plastic bags won't prevent you from pregnancy.
Well, okay. Could she get pregnant if I put my foot in her ear?
No! That was an episode of Family Guy. This is real life. My first experience with public school sex education went as follows. The presenters chose a boy and a girl respectively and gave them both colored cardstock made of hearts. They described their dreamy first date with
Springtime picnic on a red plaid blanket with peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
The date ended in a semi-consensual virginity sharing in which the presenters
glued together the cardstock hearts. And sadly, the relationship between the boy and the girl didn't last long.
And to illustrate their breakup, the presenters
ripped the cardstock hearts apart, leaving scattered porcupines of color littered against one another.
This, be remotely informed, is the consequence of sex. As a teen, Andrea learned about the failure rate of condoms, but not how to use one.
She was shown stomach-turning slides about genital warts, but not advised how to get rid of them other than staying abstinent. Sex in any context outside of marriage was portrayed as unhealthy or dangerous, and intimate pleasure wasn't discussed at all.
95% of Americans have premarital intercourse. Abstinence only can leave kids, especially young girls, with lasting impressions of shame around their sexuality.
When two adults want to have a child, they have to
work together,
have sex,
work together.
This thing, it's gonna hurt you, okay? And someone gave it to me and I passed it to you back in the car. It can look like anything, but there's only one of it. Sometimes I feel like it looks like the people you love just to hurt you.
I see it.
This class, we will only use medically correct terms.
Okay. So, what's another word for balls?
Testicles.
Well, okay, but why do girls scream when they have sex? And like, what am I gonna do when the bed breaks, you know?
Men and women make sound as a pleasurable response, and the bed probably won't break.
But if it does, hopefully no one gets hurt.
Forgive this lack of knowledge, these unhelpful euphemisms.
Your body is not a flower. You do not bleed roses. Your body and all its name, God soaked the fruits from this hard labor. God knows you have deserved it. 7 nights on your hands and knees with no roadmap.
Sarah Ziegler, 25, became convinced she was a pervert for being attracted to both men and women.
Persuaded that sex was bad and wrong and waited until she was 19 to ask her doctor about birth control.
Shame is a really hard lesson to unlearn.
She says she'll never forget the scorching waves of guilt that coursed through her body when her teacher asked her 8th grade class to sign abstinence pledges.
You can get rid of it, okay? It's like a curse to just sleep with someone as soon as you can. Pass it along. Just don't let it touch you, okay?
Is there something wrong with me though? I'm scared.
Look, me too. But it should be easy for you. You're a girl.
She can't even get pregnant if she does an orgasm.
Bro!
So,
If you jump up and down 20 times after sex, the sperm doesn't reach the egg. It's like gravity, bro!
that makes sense. The language of biology, these lessons were handed down to you, salt and judgment you learn early.
To keep your legs closed, got pulled out of class for exposed shoulders, keep your tampons in your pocket or up your sleeve.
And then to be a woman, you must also become a magician and make things disappear.
We know we have failed you.
I was never told about condoms, and I had never even seen a condom until I snuck into my brother's dresser drawer and stole a yellow pineapple Trojan.
I was never told I have a clitoris, where it is, and what it does. And in my later sexual experiences, I realized men were never taught this either. The results, ridiculous myths perpetuated by uninformed, sexually active teenagers.
Wherever you are, it's coming for you. It's coming. If you drive far enough, maybe you can buy yourself some time, decide if you want to pass it on to someone else. Did you feel different after we did it?
No? Did you?
No.
Do you know, is there a specific body part you know of?
Yeah, the place between mommy's legs. That's called the Virginia.
It's called the vagina.
Oh. Virginity is a myth we tell our children to keep them scared. It should not take 14 years to learn this. This language should be a science. We do not have to learn about our bodies by how they can be destroyed. Sex can be a celebration, a good thing.
Sex can look like so many different things, and so many different kinds of people. These questions are shunned on their quivering throats and their curious bellies.
The answers will only come to those willing to explore their bodies with intention.
When you demonize,
Idealize, romanticize, misrepresent!
the most intrinsically innocent dance of human connection, how can you ever expect them to love themselves enough to
practice respect!
Sex does not always mean love. It should never be demanded.
Sex means whatever you believe it to be in the ever-fluxing momentary mood.